Hello, everybody, and warm welcome to all of you participating today at this side event during the UN 2.0 week. My name is Francesca Perucci. I'm Director of Policy and Partnerships at Open Data Watch, which is an international non-profit organization that focuses on supporting the improvement of development data and making them more findable, more accessible, and usable for higher impact. I have the great pleasure of moderating this session today as we introduce the new UN data platform developed by the UN Statistics Division in partnership with Google. Data is central to the implementation of the Secretary General's new vision of a modern UN system, a UN 2.0. As you will hear shortly, this platform really revolutionizes how we access and utilize authoritative statistical data from across the UN system. Last year, at the SDG Summit in September, the Statistics Division with Google's Data Common launched the UN Data Commons for the SDGs. And since then, the platform has been expanded to include more data from partner agencies, and there are now new plans to further integrate data across the UN system. The UN Statistics Division is certainly not new to this type of efforts and has a strong mandate for data dissemination and communication, guided by member states that are represented at the UN Statistical Commission, the higher governing body for statistics. And reflecting the priorities and the technical inputs from the global statistical inputs, there's the global statistical community, including on data standards and principles. And in recent years, the UN Statistical Commission has also adopted open data principles and practices. And I'm confident that this new platform will be key for advancing the implementation of open data practices in official statistics. So today we'll have the opportunity to see how the platform works and also hear about plans to move the work forward. We'll hear an introduction on the new platform, and then that will be followed by a panel discussion featuring very distinguished panelists representing both the partners that participated in the development of UN data, as well as key users from the UN system and national statistical offices. So before we start, I just remind you, you've seen the slides and the slide in the beginning. Please use the Q&A function to ask questions. We'll have an opportunity to address them at the end. Also, kindly use the chat so that you can interact with the other users, the other participants. Your cameras and your microphones are off, are disabled. So just use the chat and the Q&A. So let me now introduce our first speakers. We'll first see a demo of UN data, which will be introduced by Yonggi Min, who's the chief of the SDG monitoring section at the UN Statistics Division. Yonggi, over to you.
Thank you very much, Francesca. And I have the great pleasure to introduce the UN data platform. Just give me a second to load the presentation. Try to find where it is. Here. Okay. So as Francesca mentioned, I'm very pleased to showcase the new UN data platforms developed by the UNDESA Statistical Commission in partnership with Google's Data Commons. The UN Data Modernization Initiative is a direct response to the Secretary General's call for data-driven and transformation of the United Nations. The main goal of the project is to leverage the state-of-art technology to establish a central hub where everyone can easily access the vast richness of official data and statistics collected by the entire UN system. We then want to put this digital resource in the hands of policymakers, researchers, and the general public everywhere to help them to find actionable solutions to achieve the SDGs. So as Francesca mentioned, at the SDG Summit last September, we launched the first phase of the project, the UN Data Commons for the SDGs. So this new tool allows the public to easily access the relevant insights and visualization on SDG progress. The tool also incorporates a natural language interface that allow users to ask simple questions like how many people go hungry in the world, how do literacy rate compared to poverty in sub-Saharan Africa, and how much have infant mortality rate improved over time. So building on this success, the UN data platform has since expanded to include WHO data. We're now working to incorporate ILO data and then followed by UN IGLAC data, UNICEF, and other new data sets. So I will start by showing case the new UN data platform landing page. So the landing page features the SDGs, which lead you to the UN Data Commons for the SDGs and SDG Insight and data stories. Next, you can explore data by country or areas. Here we have a few examples. Then thematic areas follows with data sets and visualizations available across 12 thematic areas. And next, we have a section on data insights, where we include featured articles and data stories from partner agencies to showcase data insights and highlights on topics of interest. And the last, our data partners are represented by their logo. Sorry. So with this, just 1 second. So with this slide, your question truly leads the way. So by integrating AI and the machine learning into the site, you can ask simple questions just like that. Then you will receive a quick return, a series to easy to read and downloadable graph generated based on my specific query. You will also find extensive amount of context, interactive graph, and maps that help you to understand the data in a tangible way. This tool also allows for further exploration of the SDGs. For instance, we can see there were 768 million people living in hunger in 2021. If we do not step up our effort to address hunger and ensure food security, we will see that by 2030, more than 600 million people are projected to face hunger. So this page brings together not only authoritative SDG data and visualization, but also data insights and information from the annual Global SDG report into one place. So the data partner page provides an overview of each data partners. Taking WHO, for example, the individual data partner page presents relevant data insight stories and highlighted indicator from WHO. So the individual data partner page also contains a data catalog to further explore that agency's data. So the UN data platform exemplifies applying the cutting-edge data, digital, and AI capabilities to the SDG implementation challenges. Its success can catalyze progress across multiple pillars of the UN 2.0 vision, while fostering a more open, collaborative data cultures. So here is the QR code of the new UN data platforms. So we greatly appreciate your feedback on your experiences with the platform. So your insights are valuable in helping us enhance its accessibility and usability. We're very much looking forward to working with our partners as we develop the site, and also hope to collaborate with users to improve and unleash the full potential of the platform. So with that, I'll give back to Francesca. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yonggi. That was great. And now we look a little bit into the future, and we'll hear from Luis Gonzalez Morales, who's the chief of the data innovation section, also at the UN Statistics Division, about the data governance and the future plans for the development of the UN data platform. Luis, over to you. Luis, I think you're muted. Try again. No.
Apologies.
That's fine.
I hope you can hear me now. So thank you, Francesca, for the opportunity to join this amazing panel, and we are very happy to have this platform in the week of UN 2.0 to raise awareness and also invite a lot of our UN colleagues to join this effort and be part of this initiative. So let me start with what is the value proposition for users. Now, as Yonggi was showing in the demonstration, this is a platform that, through the use of technology in partnership with Google and making use of cutting-edge technologies, we are able to provide easier access to authoritative data to combat disinformation and to support evidence-based policy and decision-making. It provides data and analytics to help monitor and plan for policy interventions to be more effective and accountable in the implementation of the 2030 agenda. It enables the creation of more data-driven solutions that are targeted at the local, national, and global challenges that we are facing today. And it's a platform that enables collaboration and policy alignment by providing a common baselines for understanding very complex facts. Now, for the value of the platform is also towards the inside of the UN system to make us a more effective organization. So this platform enables different agencies, programs, offices to reach a broader audience with the richness of data that they all produce, increases the visibility and the brand recognition of the different programs of the participating agencies, and provides access to shared resources for enhancing the data products that we all deliver. It also gives us a mechanism to collect and act on feedback from users to enhance the data quality of our products and the impact that we have, and facilitates access to advanced technologies for data analytics. Now, all of this is a complex endeavor and requires a huge organization effort, coordination effort, and a proper governance framework. So to ensure that the UN data platform is in line with the priorities of the UN and it's working in the best interest of member states. So for this, we have put together a governance framework in multiple tiers, starting by what is called the Interagency and Expert Group of UN Data, which provides overall advice and guidance on the implementation of UN data and ensures the application of statistical standards and UN statistical quality assurance framework. And also different layers at the more technical level. So we have a technical group responsible for making tactical decisions on the types of content that is to be shared, on the presentation of that content, the proper presentation of that content, and the workflows and the methods and mechanisms that we implement to ensure that we harmonize data and metadata properly. And finally, depending on different elements of the work, we also have more ad hoc task teams focusing on data harmonization, on technology adoption, on policy priorities, on community engagement, and so forth. So this gives us a flexible set of mechanisms to address this huge coordination challenge, And we would like to invite all our colleagues from different agencies to join UNDESA and to be part of these conversations. So what would be the next steps? We are working, as Yonggi mentioned before, on expanding the coverage by including more agencies that provide data to UNDESA, enhancing the types of visualizations and data stories that are available through it, refining the natural language search capabilities, and this is done, of course, in close collaboration with our partners from Google, because this is one of the key value propositions of the platform, to be able to query the data and to explore the data in a more conversational manner, which is what users demand today. And now developing and deploying specialized tools for data pre-processing, for validation, for flow monitoring. This is part of making the platform scalable and sustainable. We need to be able to make this process of bringing data into the platform efficient and reduce the burden of data providers. So for that, we are also developing tools that help onboarding the new data partners, and we are planning on conducting internal workshops for our partners and data administrators, so that they can make obtain the most value out of the platform. Yeah. With that, I give it back to you, Francesca. These are just the next milestones where we will be releasing new versions of the platform as the scope is expanded and the functionality is expanded. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Luis. Those are very good plans for the future and important milestones, as we are now coming up with the very important events this year, including the Data Forum in November. So I see that there are already questions in the Q&A function. Be patient. There will be time to address, hopefully, many of them at the end of this, after our panel discussion. And hopefully some can also be answered directly in the Q&A function by our panelists, and including by Luis and Yonggi, who will join the panel at the end of this. So allow me now to introduce, we have really a great panel with us today to focus on some of the aspects of the UN data platform and the work as we move forward. So we'll be joined by Guha, who's the founder of the Data Commons of Google, also by Steve McFeely, Director of Data and Analytics at the WHO, World Health Organization, Samantha Salve, who's the Data and Monitoring Officer in the UN Resident Coordinator's Office in Brazil, Lisha Delati-Beder, who's the Deputy Director General of the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, and Yonggi and Luis, as I said, will also join the panel and address some of the questions. But let me address first Guha. It's a great honor to have you here today, because without Google, a lot of this would not have happened, obviously. This partnership between Google and the UN has really been groundbreaking, and has really allowed the UN to make advancements in their data dissemination approaches. So I'd like to ask you how you envision the collaboration with the UN as we move into the next phase and in the future, and do you see any challenges from your perspective as we move forward? Guha, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's been an absolute privilege working with you all. And Francesca and Yonggi and Luis, if you remember, it was less than a year ago on May 8th that we held our kickoff meeting. And if you had told me then that we would be this far by this time, even I would have, the UN has to teach Silicon Valley how to move fast. I think that looking forward, I think it is amazing the way UN data has come together, not just as a hub for the data around the UN family of agencies, but I'm looking forward to it bringing together data from many other entities as well, everything from Paris 21 and OECD and AFDB and so many more people, because UN is the convening entity. And that is going to require integrating with standards like SDMX and a bunch of other tools, and we're really looking forward to doing that. We also need to make it an order of magnitude easier for people to come onto this platform by building, connectors and things like that. The biggest challenge that I see for us going forward, actually, Yonggi made a reference to it in one of her slides. It says, uncover solutions, one question at a time. It's very easy for us as data people to get completely fascinated with the data and say, oh, look, we have so much data and we can ask so many questions. But we have to connect these with the solutions. We have to make it easier for practitioners on the ground to build solutions to gain insights from this data. That is the next big challenge. And if we can do that, then the data gravity naturally will happen. If we don't do that, over a period of time, there is a big danger of us becoming our own sort of bubble, if you will. And that is the biggest challenge that we have to avoid. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Guha. Allow me now to turn to Steve. Steve McFeely, you are the Director of Data and Analytics at WHO, and which is the first agency that, together with others, have agreed to join this and be sort of the pioneers, joining the UN Data Modernization Project. What are, in your views, the benefits of being one of such agencies and the value for users to being able to access WHO data in this integrated space? And what is the difference for a user going directly to WHO or going into the UN data platform? Over to you, Steve.
Hi, Francesca, and hi, everybody. Thanks for the questions and the opportunity to be here. First of all, being very selfish, from a WHO point of view, visibility is obviously one of the huge advantages. UNSD and the UN, it has a unique space in the data world. So getting our data into that platform, then, it makes perfect sense. People can come to WHO, but now they have another alternative. And linked to that, what will be very important in the future is linking or being able to find WHO data alongside other data, because a lot of the determinants of health and a lot of the outcomes of health don't happen actually in the health space. They happen in other things, like you see the determinants manifesting themselves in education or in income. So having those data side by side is actually critical for users, because when they come to WHO, they get the health data, but then they have to go somewhere else to find the other data. So having it all together in the data platform, that's really valuable from a user perspective. But then also, again, selfishly, we're building our own World Health Data Hub, and there's a lot of lessons we can learn. So you're a little further ahead than us. So we can learn lessons in terms of what you're doing, which will help us to inform the kind of development of our own hub. There's also synergies, that there may be bits of code that we can steal from you, or maybe bits of code that we can develop and give back to you. So all of these things as well, the synergies that we can develop will be really advantageous from a WHO perspective. So I'll stop there. Thanks, Francesca.
Thank you, Steve. That is great. And I'm sure that applies to all other parts of the UN system. Let me now turn to what I would say are more of the users, right, of the platform, the potential users of this platform. First, I'd like to turn to her colleagues, Samantha Salve, Data Monitoring Officer in Brazil in the UN Resident Coordinator's Office. Samantha, you are among those who really need the data every day, right? In your role at the UN Resident Coordinator's Office, I'm sure you have utilized this type of data, development data, in your everyday work to address the country's needs and decide, the work that needs to be done, addressing priorities, especially in the implementation of the SDGs. So how can the UN Data Platform support your work, support your efforts?
Exactly, Francesca. Yes, we actually use data in our daily work, from speeches to thinking about projects to our strategic planning process. So data is part of everyday work from all the UN system at the country. But more specifically, I think the UN Data Platform is very useful to project designs and initiatives, because as is this UN 2.0 week is all about, not all staff it's so familiar with data systems and data platforms. So having a one-stop shop that the project managers can go to and find information in an easy way, user-friendly way, using queries and AI, it's especially interesting because we have, like, day-to-day use of Google just to have one data point. And even though it's quite right to have a news data point, it's better to have a strong platform, a UN platform that brings our own data to think about our interventions. Also, a lot of space to work to advocate for data with our partners. When you are talking about, like, we are selecting now the indicators to monitor our progress implementing the priorities that we agree with the country, with Brazil. And the data platform is so useful because the infographics and the data insights, as Guha was mentioning, the data insights are really helpful to navigate through so much of data and to really select the most important points. As for the voluntary national review process that we are working with the government right now, the platform also have importance on looking at the numbers from a global perspective. So once you have all your seen on Brazil, but it's so many data points, so few number of pages to write your report. So how can you focus? And it's nice to have a global perspective to highlight some cases. I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. No, that's very clear. Thank you, Samantha. And speaking of users, I see National Statistical Offices also as potential, very important users of the platform. But of course, NSOs are also the ones who make all this possible. Without their data, what we have in the UN data platform wouldn't exist. They are the ones who produce this and share that with the global statistical system. So let me turn now to Lisha, who's from as I said earlier, from the Statistical Institute of Jamaica. Lisha, in your role leading the work of a National Statistical Office and involved in the data management at the national level, what advantages do you see in assessing comprehensive data in such a space in the UN data platform that bringing together all different parts of the UN system in a single location? Over to you, Lisha.
Thanks, Francesca. First and foremost, thank you for having me. It is an honor to be on such a distinguished panel. For us, as data is our business, it is what we do, it is the primary purpose of why NSOs exist. A platform like this will significantly improve the value of the data, because data is only as valuable as how it is used. So when the data is more widely disseminated, when the data is more readily available, it encourages broader use. Additionally, too, when all of the data from various subject matters are put together in one central platform, what it does, it gives a more complete picture of what is happening. So as Steve had said before, you're able to not just look at health data, but you're also able to see whether there are any indications or any other things happening in other areas like education or poverty or other areas like that. Additionally, too, the use of data visualizations, the insights, the way that the UN data platform will capture the data, it makes it a lot more digestible. So even for non-statisticians, now, when we produce the data and it gets ingested into such a platform as the UN Data 2.0, it will break it down into simple terms. And that's usually the disconnect that we have, that when we, as statisticians, when we publish our data, we publish it for statisticians. But this will allow us now to break it down into regular everyday language and allow for greater usability. Another thing that it gives us is it gives us perspective, right? So as an NSO, let's say we are producing the unemployment rates, and we know for Jamaica, our unemployment rate has been trending down, but how does that stack up with the rest of the region, with the rest of the world? It gives us some perspective on our data, so we can compare our progress towards what is happening globally. Additionally, too, we are fortunate in Jamaica that our Vision 2030 Jamaica has a very high level of alignment with the SDGs. So the way the data is presented and it is focused on monitoring the SDGs, it simultaneously allows us to monitor our progress towards Vision 2030 Jamaica. And now as a user, a little known thing is that NSOs actually ingest data from other NSOs. So for example, when we are looking at cross-border trade, we want to know some information from other countries, and that helps us now with refining and improving our estimates. So this will also provide and prove to be a very significant data source for us as NSOs. I'll stop here for now. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Licia. So we clearly see how, the potential of the platform and how many uses and the users experience, how improved it will be, in both at the national level and more widely with this platform. But of course, we have challenges. We have a lot of work ahead to complete this and to integrate more and more data. But I'd like to, for a moment, to go back to Guha. As the one who has really developed this approach and the knowledge graph and the natural language processing being used in the context of UN data. How do you see these innovations, Guha, shaping the future of these global data initiatives? Over to you, Guha.
It's not just me. It's a whole village. It's a big
village.
town, a whole big town of people, many of whom are here. I think there is going to be a very, very interesting synergy between the newer Gen AI techniques and the traditional knowledge graph and statistical techniques. And the way one of the developments that I'm looking forward to is if we can knowing what the right questions to ask is a very big thing. If I were to ask imagine somebody in the ground in some place in Africa or South America or Southeast Asia, and they want to know which communities are most in danger, they might not even know what the statistical questions to be asked. If we could develop models that can enable people to gain the results of this kind of data science analysis and so on, by building on top of the expertise that is there at UN Data and other such places, that will enable, it will be like bringing, a junior Louis and Yonggi to every village in the world. That is the real potential. And it's going to take some work, but I think we are building on top of a fantastic foundation in order to make that happen. And that is my real big hope in what will come of all this in the next few years.
That's very inspiring. That's great, exciting. Let me go back to Steve. Steve, you're also the co-chair of the committee of the chief statisticians of the UN system. And so I know there is a system-wide roadmap for innovating UN data and statistics, which also has UN data as part of one of the key steps for its implementation. So how do you expect this, the development of this new platform, the modernization of UN data, to support the committee's vision on innovation. Over to you, Steve.
Well, I mean, first of all, we're thrilled because a number of years ago, the chief statisticians of the UN system, so who are they? They're the chief statisticians of all of the different UN entities. We came together to develop a first strategic plan or roadmap, and we had never developed a plan like that before. And one of the key objectives or targets in that plan that stood above nearly all else was the need for some sort of a common UN data platform. Everybody recognized the need for something like that. And why? And it's because we all recognize that users don't understand the complexity of the UN system. Outsiders tend to look at the UN as the UN. So they want to go to one easy place to find the data. And we shouldn't expect them to understand the subtle differences between UNICEF and WHO, where one mandate starts and another mandate finishes. They just want the data. So we really wanted to we recognize we need to make it easy for people to find the data. Now, the other very important issue is politically, the UN data platform also speaks in a way, it's the personification of one UN data, one UN. So we talk all the time about one UN, but we rarely see a concrete manifestation of that. So politically, this database or this platform is super important. But also technically, one of the things that we all struggle with UN entities is to actually implement common standards across ourselves. So common metadata platforms, common licensing, all of these things, we talk about them, but it's very, very hard to achieve. And this platform will pull us along. It won't necessarily force us to do that, but it will make the needs more obvious. And again, that just helps users because then they know when they're accessing data, I can use this data safely. I don't need to start reading 10 different licensing agreements to make sure that I can match these data. So the UN data platform, I think for us, realizes a long-standing gap in the global data infrastructure. And speaking on behalf of all the chief statisticians, we're absolutely thrilled that this is up and running.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And it's not just mandates on different topics, so it's sometimes also producing data on the same topic with different approaches and different methodologies. So certainly very much needed, bringing everybody together. Let me go back to Samantha. So you heard, what UN data can offer, but thinking of your work, as we move forward and the team continues to add features and to further develop the tool, what features would you like to see in this new platform that would really benefit what you do? And if you have any specific recommendation for utilizing the UN data effectively for supporting policymakers. Over to you, Samantha.
Yes, thank you for having the opportunity to discuss the features that are important for the local level, for the local implementation. This is already one feature that I would like to see, not exactly as a feature, but in a way to include the data officers and all the intelligence that we have on the field to work together. But also I have like two specific points. One is about language. It will be really nice to have another versions. I can dream about Portuguese with the Secretary General, but Spanish is good enough. Also, I would like to see disaggregation. It's important for the LNOB. It's important to reach out populations, but also disaggregation by geography in cases like some continental countries like Brazil is truly important. We are talking about more than 5,000 municipalities. We don't need to reach the municipality level, but some kind of disaggregation is important when you're talking about thinking about public policies. But I would also like to highlight 2 points that I think it's really already there in the platform, but I want to highlight the importance of them to the local perspective. One is source of data, and not just about the institution, but like you did, going to the metadata of the information, because when we are in the field, we need to answer to the government where this data came from, where are you basing, which kind of source are you using, because generally it's some local source that perhaps is changed a little bit to permit, to allow comparison. So it's important for us in our dialogue with the government to have this kind of information, but also to insist on infographics and data visualization together with data learning, because as we mentioned, not everyone have the skills to deal with a lot of data. Not everyone on the local level have the skills to deal with data, and we need to have more like quick answers on data insights, and infographics and data visualizations helps a lot on that. Thank you.
Very important points. I'm sure Luis and Yongi are taking notes. Lisha, a similar question to you from your perspective, which is in some ways similar to what a UN country team and resident coordinator office needs, but you have a whole, different level on top of that, I would say. So some recommendations from you and your hopes for the future of the UN data platform. Over to you.
Yeah, all right. So one of the things is the ability to integrate with our national data ecosystems. So for example, for us to be able to pull and push data seamlessly, automatically, and also possibly even embed some of the data from the platform, because there might be data that would have been available for other countries in the region that we might want to also include on our local national statistics websites. I would also want to see some sort of streamlining and automation of the recon process. We know, for example, sometimes, as Samantha just said, that there might be differences between what the NSO produced, minor differences, and it might be because some adjustments were made for harmonization purposes, but sort of streamlining and harmonizing that, and wherever it is not possible that we're going to get back to the exact same number, that we have very clear documentation as to what is causing the difference, and that the NSO and the UN agencies are on the same page. So kind of streamlining how we work together to ensure that we're on the same page and we're singing the same song. Data quality indicators is another one. Putting that out there, what are the limitations of the data? Because what you don't want is misuse of the data. So when you clearly document the limitations, what are the data quality indicators, that in persons know upfront, this is as good as this is. This is a model-based data. This is actually based on national collection. Those sorts of things would be useful. And also downloadable data, downloadable visualizations, being able to download, pull them, because I mean, with all of your fancy graphs on your site, why do I need to recreate them? Why can't I just download and reuse them? So making it more seamless for us to also use the data on the platform, and the insights and the visualizations would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisha. The message is loud and clear. And we know, that is one of the key areas, the important areas for national statistical offices. So documenting and understanding the difference between those data and the ones produced at the country level. So Yongi and Luis, I'm sure you've been thinking a lot, listening to the very inspiring words by Guha, very encouraging comments by Steve, the needs, the users and the specialized users have highlighted. So now how do we move forward? And I'd like to first ask Yongi, from where you sit, how do you see the priorities as we move forward, especially, I would say, this next critical phase, the next few months, and what are the main areas of focus for the work? Over to you, Yongi.
Thank you, Francesca, and also thank you for the panels and the great suggestions and also requests. So we're taking notes of what the shopping list, and I think some maybe we can do for the near future, but we have a long list to do. For the your data platform move forward, there are some key priorities that area we can focus. So we want to integrate as many as data sets as possible. So we'll conduct a comprehensive mapping exercise to identify the key data sets across all the UN agencies and bodies. And so we prioritize the integration data set based on the factors like the data readiness, also demand from users, and also the potential for impact and insights. So we will develop a robust roadmap and a clear timeline for systematically integration of the different data sets over time. So for example, by July at the high-level political forum, so we will hope to have 3-4 more agency data sets, also together with the new data and insight from the upcoming SDG report 2024. So this will provide a rich data and data insight to help the delegates and other partners and at the HLPF for their deliberation on how to accelerate the SDGs. In terms of user experiences, so we will continue to enhance the natural language query capabilities through iterative training on the UN data and to improve the accuracy and the relevancy of the results. And we also want to develop a more intuitive data visualization tools tailored to different users and skill levels. And we also want to optimize mobile response design for access the insight on the go. So basically gather user feedback and to create a more open innovation process to improve the UX. In terms of data quality and trustworthy, we will implement robust data validation checking during the integration from different sources, also ensure the metadata standards and also taxonomy are harmonized across the platform. We will strengthen data security, privacy, and foster data sharing partnership with all the data partner agencies, and also try to automate some of the data collection, transformation, and integration pipelines. So ultimately, we want to advance the platform as open source, reusable digital public good. So this platform success really depends on the continually enhanced user trust in the data through the strong governance, while making it very progressively easier to drive the timely cross-cutting insights that can help accelerate the SDG. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yonggi. And now to the one who has to make this happen from the back end, Luis. How do you see the next steps? As we try to integrate more data sets, what are the critical, concrete steps? And I see there are also some of the more technical questions on the Q&As that perhaps some of the colleagues in the background can already answer, or maybe Luis, you can also cover some of them, especially when it comes to the level of granularity of data that can be integrated, how we ensure that there is a good level of interoperability for people to navigate across different data systems. Maybe you can also touch upon that a little bit as you highlight the key critical steps as we move forward. Over to you, Luis.
No, thank you, Francesca, and thank you everyone in the panel for your generous support. And I can only repeat what Gu has said. This is a huge team involved behind this, from the side of Google, from the side of the UN, a technical team that has been fantastic, and also with the incredible support of our partner agencies. No, everyone's contribution has been essential. And so first of all, I wanted to just reaffirm a bit what Yonggi mentioned. As part of the UN 2.0, this idea of digital means that we need to build our products differently, following the lead of our users. No, so this change of culture, like building on what users actually need, and that's why it's so critical to hear the voices like Samantha and Lisha on what is actually needed. So we are really listening carefully to all these important needs about better visualizations, better access to the data, and so on. But also, let me then talk about what we need to do to make that happen is also to make the content grow in the database and in the platform. And for that, we need to make it easier for our partners to participate, to contribute. So building on better tools for automating, as Licia was mentioning, for integrating with other systems at the national, regional, global level is one of our top priorities. So the platform is benefiting from really advanced technology, and also we need to make sure that we are able to communicate to the different users groups. How can they access these tools, these facilities? There are powerful APIs that can be used to explore the data for the more sophisticated users. And we are also working every day with our team to make the access for insights to the general public, for policymakers, also better. So we are working on those two directions to make it easier and more valuable to our data partners, to our providers of data, and to make it also more valuable to our general users. And I would like to finish with one challenge that I face, that I see we are facing in the UN, is to make sure that these efforts are sustainable, that all these skills that are being developed, that are being brought to the table by different teams, endure and are replicable, and others can also build on them. So yeah, over to you, Francesca.
Wonderful. Thank you, Luis. I promised I would take some questions from the Q&As from our audience, and there are many, but I find a few that points to sort of a similar direction. There were questions about whether you have plans to also incorporate data outside the development area, so like on peace and security. And there was a specific question on how the UN Data Commons platform integrate with the OCHA humanitarian data exchange. And I know there have been several discussions around this particular topic. So maybe those are questions for Luis and Yonggi, but maybe Steve, also from your point of view, as you sit in the committee of chief statisticians in the UN, your perspective would be interesting. Who do I go first? Who do I go to first? Yonggi, Luis?
Maybe I'll just say, so we'll also look into the OCHA's data, and so but we'll look at the data readiness and also how to respond to user. I think OCHA data responses to emergencies needs, and how this platform can better integrate, because it's a special need and really need a timely data. So I guess I will refer to Luis that this is probably not at the early stage that we want to integrate OCHA data, because it's more complex. But in the long run, we'll probably definitely will look into the peace and security data.
Yeah, Yonggi, if I may just say, from the technical perspective, this is a long-term process and our focus is to make the data across the UN system integrated and interoperable. So as we start progressing with different agencies coming on board, already now, right out of the existing platform, the data is accessible and easier to integrate with other data hubs, data systems. So I think that very important value from this is that you don't need to be fully within UN data to integrate with UN data. So UN data is also part of the broader data commons, for instance, that Google is establishing. So meaning that UN data is the place where you go and find authoritative curated data from across the UN system, but this data can also talk to other systems, and other systems can benefit from integrating data out of UN data.
That's great. Anything from you, Steve?
Yeah, I don't have much to add other than to say that there's a lot of agencies are actively waiting. They're preparing their data and they're actively getting it in. And again, just to stress the reason why, which is the point Luis has just made, we know that everything is interconnected. Things don't happen in isolation. So to really kind of understand what's going on in the world, you need to connect things to other things, whether it's health to education, whether it's economy to migration, whatever. So yeah, we're just super enthusiastic. But with all developments, I think the important thing is to remind people that this process is never finished. We get the data in, and all the time this platform will be evolving and developing. And it's a point I have to make to my boss all the time as well, that the World Health Data Hub will never be finished. Like the day it's finished is the day we actually switch it off. This is the beginning of a long journey where we continue to develop a platform that will respond, I hope, to users' needs and their suggestions and ideas.
That's great. Thank you, Steve. Let me take, I think we still have a little bit of time to take at least one more question. I find this particularly interesting, and then that was somehow touched upon by Lisha. In expanding this platform, how do you envision reaching out to countries and local agencies where data collection takes place? So what is the relation, and eventually, you know, what type of other data you envision integrate into the platform? I think for this, I have to go back to Luis and Yonggi again. Who wants to take that?
So maybe just to say how we are progressing in terms of expanding the scope of the platform. We started with a few pilot agencies that we call that volunteer to work with us in the initial phase of the project. Part of this, one of these agencies or entities of the UN system is the ECLAC, the Regional Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. We are hoping to work also with other regional commissions very soon. And that's the bridge towards data generated at the regional level. They have a much closer relationship also with national statistical offices and data at the country level. So there's a path where we can continue bringing into the platform data that responds to regional needs and to national needs. All of it within the architecture of the global statistical system, because global, regional, national.
Yonggi, anything from your side that you want to add?
Yeah, probably I also like to say for GoHa can provide some solution, and we work together to see how we incorporate more data from other than UN agencies in the long run.
Yes, we look forward to doing that.
Wonderful. There was a question about security, pulling together so many data sets, but perhaps some of you can clarify these are not micro data. These are data at the aggregated level that are already published by different UN agencies. So there's really not a huge need for, enhancing the security, but maybe Luis and Yonggi, you want to add anything on that?
In terms of the sensitivity of the data, that's correct. This is public data, open data that is being now integrated into a common platform. So, but that doesn't mean that we don't need to go through a rigorous process of ensuring the security of our systems. No, we are also working with partners that bring their data in, and as we are able to provide analytics about data use and analytics of what questions are being asked and all that needs to be handled properly, in terms of preserving the privacy and confidentiality of our users. So yeah, that is very much part of our product roadmap, that we need to go also through the regular security, data security processes within the UN.
Wonderful. Thank you, Luis. Any last minute thoughts from anybody on this issue or any other issues? We only have 1 minute left. I see there's still a lot of questions. Unfortunately, we couldn't cover all of them. I've asked the organizers whether some can be answered directly on the Q&A function by the colleagues in the team. Hopefully that can be done. But with that, it's already 11 a.m. here in the East Coast of the US. So I'd like to just take a moment to thank our great panel. Thank you, Guha. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Samantha and Lisha. And thanks so much and congratulations to Yonggi, Luis, and the team at UNSD, at the UN Statistics Division, and Google, who have really worked incredibly hard over the last few months to advance the work on the modernization of this platform. And before I close, allow me to also announce another very exciting side event this week during this UN 2.0 week, which will take place on Thursday, April 25th, between 8 and 9 EDT, 8 and 9 a.m. EDT, and it's on leveraging citizen data. This is also a very important area of work. And from Open Data Watch, we're also participating in the development of the new framework for citizen-generated data. So I'm very proud to announce this event. And again, many, many thanks and congratulations to the panel. Thank you, panelists, for spending time with us today. And thank you to our audience, all the participants, for being part of this conversation with us today. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, colleagues.
Bye-bye.